Picture this, it's 1993 and two of the most iconic voices in hard rock history are standing in a room together, about to make an album that sounds so much like Led Zeppelin that people will spend the next 30 years arguing about whether that's a compliment or an insult. This is the story of Coverdale-Page, the strangest, most improbable branch on the Deep Purple family tree. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the end of Whitesnake's 1990 tour. The band that had carried David Coverdale through the 80s, through Slide It In, through the self-titled Monster, through stadiums full of fans who couldn't get enough of that big hair and bigger choruses. That was all done, at least for now. Coverdale put Whitesnake on infinite hiatus. No breakup announcement, no dramatic press conference, just silence. The machine that had made him one of rock's biggest frontmen simply stopped running. Meanwhile, across the ocean and across a very different kind of legacy, Jimmy Page had his own unfinished business. He wanted Led Zeppelin back together. Robert Plant did not. Every attempt at a reunion had been quietly, or not so quietly, shut down. So he had two guys at loose ends, both sitting on decades of hard rock credibility, both looking for the next chapter. Enter John Kalodner, the Geffen Records executive with an eye for pairing talent that seems to have no business working together. In January 1991, Kalodner floated an idea: what if Coverdale and Page just made a record together? The two finally sat down face-to-face at the Ritz-Carlton in New York in March of 1991, and by most counts, it clicked almost immediately. They started writing at Coverdale's place at Lake Tahoe, then relocated to Barbados to keep the creative juices flowing somewhere a little more tropical than the Sierra Nevadas. First song they wrote together was Absolution Blues. According to Page, that early session brought back something he hadn't felt in years. That original spark of just wanting to write music because it felt good, not because a label needed a single. But this project did not come together easily. Page broke his ribs falling into a pit during a 1991 stage appearance with, of all bands, Poison. And in August of 1992, Coverdale's mother passed away, a loss that would end up shaping some of the album's more reflective material. What should have been a quick turnaround stretched into nearly 2 years of stops and starts. When they finally got into proper studio mode, the sessions moved around constantly. Rhythm tracks at Little Mountain Sound in Vancouver, vocals in overdubs at Criteria in Miami, more work done at Abbey Road in London, and a private studio out in Nevada. Crucially, both Coverdale and Page insisted on tracking to analog tape. No shortcuts, no digital tape. They wanted that warm, vintage sound, and they got engineer Mike Fraser to help them chase it. Two of them produced the record themselves alongside Fraser, which tells you how hands-on this whole thing was for both of them. So what did all that work actually sound like? People at the time coined a nickname for it: Led Snake, half Zeppelin's bluesy-driven DNA, half Whitesnake's polish. Let's go through a few key tracks. Shake My Tree opens the album, and that central riff wasn't even new. Page had originally written it back during the In Through the Outdoor sessions in 1979. 14 years later, it finally found a home. Pride and Joy leans into acoustic open tunings, harmonica, even dulcimer, very clearly reaching back toward the Led Zeppelin 3 era of Page's playing. It became the album's flagship single and shot to #1 on the mainstream rock chart. Take Me For a Little While is one of the more quieter, more emotional moments on the record, with orchestration from Claire Fisher, and it's widely understood to be Coverdale's processing personal loss. Over Now takes a more psychedelic turn with lyrics that trace back to Coverdale's divorce from Tony Kitaen. And Whisper a Prayer for the Dying is one of the more surprising deep cuts, a song actually inspired by the Gulf War, specifically the black rain caused by the burning oil fields in Kuwait. The album dropped in mid-March of 1993, and commercially it did well. Top 5 in both the UK and US, gold and eventually platinum in America, platinum in Canada, gold in Japan. Pride and Joy topped the rock charts. Shake My Tree wasn't far behind at #3. But critically, the reaction split down the middle. Rolling Stone called it about as close you can get to a Led Zeppelin comeback. Record collectors said it was Page's best playing since 1980. On the other side, critics like Robert Christgau and Greg Kot dismissed it outright as a pointless Zeppelin rehash, a criticism that, fair or not, was going to be impossible to avoid the second you put Jimmy Page and a blues rock whale on the same record. Speaking of impossible to avoid, let's talk about Robert Plant, because he was not shy about how he felt about any of this. Plant took to mocking the whole project in interviews, coining the nickname David Cover Version for Coverdale, needling the idea that Coverdale's vocal style had always leaned a little too close to his own. Plant said flat out that he found it hard to understand why Page would choose that particular bedfellow for a project, his word, not mine. To Coverdale, that stung. He considered Plant a friend, and he described the comments as a stab in the back. Ironically, the existence of a Coverdale-Page album helped push Plant to call Page. Seeing Page work with an imitator nudged Plant back to the loop, resulting in the duo pulling together for their own successful reunion, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first, Jimmy Page, for his part, pushed back hard on Plant's criticism, calling it short-sighted. He talked about Coverdale bringing all these different colors and textures to his voice. Real admiration there. Page said that two of them worked together for nearly 2 years without a single personality clash, that he genuinely had his heart in it, and that there was no ego, no nonsense, just two guys making a record because they wanted to. He even shut down the theory that the whole thing was some kind of petty revenge move against Plant for turning down a Zeppelin reunion, calling that idea pathetic. But it led to Unleaded, double pun not intended. It was the working title for the 1994 MTV Unplugged reunion project between Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, which was officially released as the live album No Quarter, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant Unleaded. The project served as a highly publicized partial Led Zeppelin reunion, conspicuously leaving out bassist keyboardist John Paul Jones. It was filmed and recorded across locations in Morocco, Wales, and London. The performances bent MTV's strict acoustic rules by incorporating electric guitars, a core rock band, an Egyptian orchestra, and a Moroccan string ensemble. It combined reimagined, heavily arranged Led Zeppelin classics like Kashmir, Since I've Been Loving You, and Gallows Pole, alongside 4 newly written Middle Eastern influenced tracks including City Don't Cry and Yalla. The official title, No Quarter, was taken from the classic 1973 Led Zeppelin track. This choice heavily annoyed John Paul Jones, who had originally written the song's signature keyboard parts and was never even informed that the reunion or album was taking place. So, Coverdale-Page burned bright and burned fast. One album, one short tour, and a legacy that still splits fans down the middle 3 decades later. But here's the kicker. While David Coverdale was off chasing Zeppelin's ghost with Jimmy Page in 1993, back in the main branch of this family tree, Deep Purple themselves were releasing an album of their own that same year. The battle rages on. And trust me, the drama behind the record's lineup is just as wild as anything we covered today. So that will be next. Check out the playlist, should be appearing on the screen. I'm doing the entire Deep Purple family tree, well, almost all of it. And I'm doing Rainbow, Whitesnake, and all those other bands. So check that out. I still have more to go. And I will see you in the next one.